Levi, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks you.
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. So, another episode of the Diving Deep podcast. I'm looking forward to this one. Looking forward to knowing a little bit more about your journey and everything like that. So, yeah,
Yeah,
man. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro because for those of you that don't know who Levi is, he's a 23-year-old DJ and producer from Coventry, and also is the owner of a brand or event called Solar. And your plan is to bring something a little bit different to what's already going on in Coventry.
yeah. There's not really much here for people that like that sort of music.
Yeah. But where I wanted to start from, because I suppose the thing I'm most intrigued about, because locally to me, I know you've been DJing a bit over here and stuff like that, and a lot of the lads which I know are saying really good things about you, especially from a production standpoint and DJ. So I want to start way before that, really, and give everybody who listens to this a bit of an insight as to how it all started, even, let's say, not really house music or dance music, just actually your earliest sort of musical influences you can think of.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I didn't really ever listen to dance music or anything. Like you hear people say, "Oh, I'm heavily influenced by like my mum or my dad, which have played like 90 music and stuff." But it wasn't any of that. I grew up listening to like rap and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I turned 18 and I started going to clubs and drinking a bit more, that's when I started to like sway. And then I think I went to my first rave. It was Hannah Once at the Black Box in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's just all gone from there, really.
Yeah.
And then I spent 2018 literally every single weekend. I think I was out. It was in Birmingham, Lab 11, listening to all sorts. I think back then, me and my friends were listening to like bass lines, which nothing to like what we're creating now.
Yeah.
And then that sort of died off, and then I started getting sick of bassline because the sound of it changed. It isn't what it is now, isn't what it was then. It's completely changed. So then I just went into just going to events. It was like relentless every single week. We'd have a festival. Sometimes we'd go to a festival on the weekend and we'd be out on the Friday before the festival, that sort of thing. And then it got to coming up to the lockdown. I think I've always had in the back of my mind, I'd be good to sort of get on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're looking at people like your Jamie Jones's, East End Dubs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're kind of in awe of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then I bought some decks. It was just before the lockdown hit, just before Corona was even a thing. And then it actually happened for me at quite a good time, to be fair, the whole lockdown thing, because it gave me a chance to sort of knuckle down on what I actually wanted to do.
Yeah, 100%. So as such, you almost like just fell into it, and that's how loads of people do. But obviously started going to events of that, and I don't know. I mean, I suppose a question I've got for you is, what was it about sort of going to those events and that music? Because obviously you can just go to a pub, you can go to a bar, you can. There's other options, but I'm always interested in what bit like myself. What is it that hooks you into that sort of scene or that event or events, I should say?
I'm not too sure. I think it's more about the whole because meeting new people and enjoying the music. Like everyone goes there for the same reason. I mean, and now, I mean, quite recently there's been like you can go to like bigger events and there'll be trouble and stuff like that. But when you go to the smaller events, everyone's going for the same reason. They all just want to enjoy the music and meet new people. So I think that's why we kept going back. And I find if you just go clubbing, you run into that trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
All the time. So it's just, and it was kind of a way of escaping at the weekend and stuff. When you're growing up at that age, you don't really have any responsibilities either.
No. Yeah. So like, it's almost for you, like being part of a scene, being part of something where everybody's there for positive reasons as such, rather than just want to get drunk and kick off with people. Yeah. No, I get it, mate. So I want to move on a little bit and talk about you as a DJ and producer, because I wasn't aware, to be honest with you, that you'd only really just started getting into it at the start of the lockdown. Fucking even more amazing, mate, to be honest with you, from some of the stuff that I've heard. So I'm keen to understand, like, how would you... Obviously, you're still quite at the start of your journey as such, but how would you describe your vibe, your sound as a DJ and producer currently?
it's hard because when a lot of people pigeonhole themselves into genres, so they say tech house or minimal deep tech or minimal. I tend to just go off the basis of I just make music. I make whatever comes out, and that's what it is, and then it just falls into whatever category people want to say it's in. But the stuff that I generally play, it's more rolling stuff. So it's got like a rolling bass line. It's got quite a lot of percussion and top loops and stuff. But then I really like the older music, so like 90s, that sort of dance music as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that sort of sound in which you're describing, that sort of, I don't know, I suppose, like you say, you don't want to term it. I don't know if it's, I don't even know if it's called like minimal now, or I don't really, like,
it's not, minimal's not minimal.
Yeah, I know what it is that you're describing, and it's a popular sound, isn't it? It is a popular subgenre in itself as it stands.
Yeah, but that comes with its own problems because it's extremely saturated at the minute. Correct. So you've got, like, for example, Piv, like Chris Dussy and those guys. You can see now, if you go into the Beatport Top 100, 95 of those tracks sound exactly the same.
Oh, yeah.
So it's 10 times harder now to try and stand out from everybody else.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the thing is, like, it's really hard, mate, to come up with like stuff that's truly original. It's almost impossible, but I suppose it's about trying to find your niche within that, isn't it? How did the whole production thing start? Because like you're making good music for not such a long period of time. So talk to me about that. How did it happen?
So I bought those decks. I think it was January, and then obviously the lockdown hit, so I was just mixing away and uploading mixes went to SoundCloud. And now when I sit there and listen back to what I thought was good back then, what my friends were doing, telling me, this is good, upload it. I'll never know. But so anyway, I kept doing that and kept plugging away until eventually I started actually getting feedback from people who were in the position I wanted to be in, and they were saying it was good. So that's when I knew, okay, this is good, I enjoy it. And then I'd always sort of said to myself, I want to take it further. I don't want it to kind of just be a hobby. I kind of want to have some seriousness to it. And then there's two lads one lad who I've got to know quite well, Josh from Late Replies. I noticed that he'd just started production lessons, and they were quite cheap. So he was doing it at like £25 an hour, I think, when he first started. So at this point, when I'm in lockdown, I got no really outgoings. So I've got all this money and all this time, but nothing else to do. And instead of veering into what quite a lot of people probably were doing, which was still going out and still seeing friends and sort of still trying to get that connection, I kind of went the other way and started hammering down on the production, because if I didn't do it then, I wouldn't have been able to afford all the gear and equipment to do it now with everything opening back up, because it's expensive, man, as you probably know.
I do, yeah, mate, so you took some lessons and that, and fair play to you, because I truly believe that is the best way to learn. Like, I'm not saying it's the only way. You can look at just tutorials on the internet and that, but if you want to cut your learning curve down tenfold, learning from somebody who actually understands what to do would you say it's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, I actually downloaded the software in March. I got Ableton. I got the trial in March. And I tried to do what you just said. I looked at some tutorials and I opened it. I had my Mac and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? I cannot figure this out. Yeah, exactly. And then the 90-day trial had finished, and that was it. It was over. So I just completely forgot about it. And then a couple of more months gone, and this this voice, if you like, it was just in my ear saying, you need to just start, just get the lesson, just start. So eventually I messaged Josh and we got going, and I think I did a lesson every week from September until January, February, something like that. So that's like 4 or 5 months of every week, just lessons. And then eventually I weaned it off and did one every other week. And now I don't do them at all. I haven't done one in a while. We just do the odd catch up and stuff. But they've got a community which I've joined, which I have to say is a lot better than all the other communities I've been in, because I find all the other ones like Syntho Hub, There's another one, Kimber. They're good in their own respect, but I feel like they all go down the same path. Whereas the creativity that I'm finding from Late Replies community is something different.
Yeah. And what would you say is the driving force? Why is it different? I suppose is the question I've got for you.
Why is that one different to the others?
Yeah.
Because the videos that they put in there, they like, I haven't seen that in other ones. Other ones are this is how you do this is how you do that. And maybe it's because it's more tailored to my sound. I'm finding it a bit more interesting. So there's a bit of bias there. But with the creativity videos that they're putting in, it sparks something different when you go into the studio and you want to make something.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so it resonates with you, basically.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah. It's quite interesting, actually, because people I have conversations with around production, some have a go, but they never ever get anywhere with it. And I don't know if you'd agree with me on this, but I think it's like you said, you were doing lessons every week, so you're obviously putting in time outside that as well. It's almost the sort of thing where, certainly at the starting off period, you've almost got to do it like every day, haven't you? Or you've got to be at it all the time.
That's the thing. A lot of my friends know this, and I think some people might know this who aren't my friend from me posting on Instagram. I'm up at like 5 o'clock every day, doing this. Like, I don't post about it all the time, but people don't realize that's what it takes to get anywhere. I'm still at the beginning, and I'm doing 2 hours before work every day, and then hours after work, and then lessons and tutorials and stuff like that. And I'm still really not anywhere in terms of where I want to be. Obviously, I've got stuff signed, and I'm getting support from really good artists, but support from artists isn't really what's going to propel you. It's going to be gigs and stuff like that, bigger labels.
Yeah, I mean, like, the reality is these days, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you. The scene now really is, there's loads of people who can DJ. You know what I mean? It's, I'm not discrediting like the art of DJing at all, but the reality is that it's very hard to separate yourself purely as a DJ. It really is about your music, your fan base, your brand, and, getting onto that super early and getting good at it. And like I say, I mean, you're right, getting the support from the artists, it's not going to make you like a really high, it's not going to push you forward loads, but that's where it all starts from, mate. You know what I mean? Like, it's if they like what you're doing and they're prepared to like start playing it, which I know is already happening, then you've just gone up the first step. Mate, loads of people can't even get there.
Yeah, I know.
You know
but
what I mean?
I think a lot of it is down to like just the work ethic. I think a lot of people don't really want to put the hours in. They kind of want the end result without having to put the work in.
Yeah, you're cramming a fuckload of time into a short, like, even though you've only been doing it like, I suppose, like 18 months or something like that. Yeah, but you've probably time-wise put in more than what some people would put in twice that amount of time. Do you know what I mean? Like, not to be harsh to people, and I was the same. Like, I was fanatical about it at the start, but obviously you get to a stage where once you get your head around it enough that you don't need to be doing it every day, and you know what it is you're trying to to get from A to B. But no, fair play to you, mate. I've got to say, it will pay off.
Thanks.
I want to talk a little bit about DJing actually. So obviously you are playing out. You've got your own night. How did the own night thing? Because that's yet again another quite big responsibility to run your own event when you're only a bit into it and stuff like that. So I'm keen to understand, like, what's the crack with that?
It just goes back to the sound, really. But I said at the start where there isn't really anything here. So obviously from 2018, I'm going out every single weekend, and even now when I go out, I still have to travel to London, Manchester, sometimes even Birmingham, which is a bit closer to get a good night of music.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, a good night of music is subjective. Obviously, everyone's got their own taste, but that type of music I have to travel for, which has its own problems with money, time, stuff like that. And some of the people some of the events I have run around here and have tried to do dance events haven't, again, hit what we're trying to do. I feel like no one's really taking a risk. No one's booking artists that are coming through. It's all just the same people. For example, you've probably seen in Casbah, it's the same people that headline on these dance events all the time. And I just feel like there's so much more that can be done. And I remember me and my friends, we thought that there is a gap in the scene. And if we can be first to it, then hopefully other people will follow, which they are. Since we've started, I'm not saying people are copying us, but people are influenced by us because there's been 2 or 3 events start up since us.
Yeah. So for people that don't know about your event, how would you describe Solar, from your perspective?
In terms of what? Well, the music or
if people were coming, what would they expect? I suppose music wise, vibe wise, what was the sort of thought process?
Well, the vibe wise, everyone I'd say at this point is very much like a family. Everybody knows each other. We've sold a good amount of tickets on each event so far. The first 2 we've done, and there's been no trouble. And the vibe's been really good, and the feedback has been quality as well, which is good to hear because it looks a lot easier than it is. I think a lot of the times I do stuff, I go into it very naive, thinking it'll be fine. It can't be that hard. And then I started doing that first one. Oh my God, the amount of problems I ran into. The first one, we had it under it, well, it ended up under a marquee, but it was meant to be outdoors. And a couple of days before the event, it's telling me it's going to rain. So now I'm thinking, oh shit, I've got to find a marquee. So just stuff like that, it just throws you under the bus. But when it pays off, it's all worth it.
Yeah, man. I mean, events, mate, it definitely does push your troubleshooting expertise to a new level because, like you say, there's shit that you don't foresee that just comes in and just, ends up going wrong in front of you. But nah, wicked, mate, I've got to say. A bit of a funny one. Any of your DJ gigs that you would say, like, fucking hell, that was a real highlight, I loved it, or any ones that were particularly terrible, not from your perspective, it's just the way it ended up that you can think of?
What was that? Sorry, any sets that have been played?
Yeah, so any DJ gigs that were like, say for instance, you really liked it, it was brilliant, it went great, and any of your worst DJ gigs?
I'm not too sure because I haven't played out that many times. It's a funny one because I haven't gone through that stage of where a lot of up and coming people do is where they play out quite a lot at small parties.
Yeah, got it.
I haven't been booked. I'm trying to think now. I'm going to get my words right here. I don't think I've been booked for a small party. I've gone straight in with Dance on Arrival. Oh, sorry, we got French and Lou, which is a bit smaller, but that was actually the best one I had played. But yeah, Dance on Arrival was the first people that booked me, and that was again off sending them demos and having stuff potentially in the future signed because they like my sound. So again, that's another reason for people to get into production. Because it fast tracks the whole getting booked situation. But yeah, I think I said to French and Lou that I couldn't wait to play there again, which thankfully I am in March. I couldn't wait to play there again because the crowd was wicked, man. Vibe was wicked there.
They get a really good crowd down there with Bloop and what have you. Yeah, they normally get
I was going to say the first track. This is the first time it's happened. I took over. I think it was Sat and Sound which were on before me. I took over, and the first tune I put in, when it dropped, the crowd went ooh, and I was like, oh fucking hell, I haven't had that before. That was a good feeling.
Yeah, mate. They've got like a crowd that they're true house music enthusiasts. Most of them, they're well keen for it, so they always get a good vibe down there. So like, just looking forward a little bit, mate. Where do you actually want to take this in an ideal world, if you could?
I think you've got all the cliche stuff, whereas I want to be on this label and that label. And I want to obviously play at the bigger parties and stuff. But I think what I've found throughout meeting people and just helping people, because I've met 5 or 6 people now, we're in a group chat and we help each other quite a lot. We just push each other on. And being inspired from people like Late Replies and Synth Hub and stuff. 5, 6 years, however many years, I want to have a community like they've got.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my goals. And hopefully manage to take solar in surrounding areas to Coventry, not just Coventry.
Yeah. So that's interesting actually, because most people, when I ask them that question, they just say, "Oh, I just want to be a touring DJ, and I just want to do this, and I just want to do that." And it's actually interesting the fact that you're quite a bit more modest about it, mate, which is really nice actually. About it's more about you probably thinking a bit more the stuff that you will absolutely be able to do, and then I suppose see where it goes from there.
Yeah. Because I think saying you want to be a touring DJ and stuff, that's just part and parcel of where you want to end up really as a DJ.
Yeah.
No one wants to just play the small parties. I don't care who says they do. They don't want to just stay there. But yeah, I think it's good to have other plans as well, because you can't just as we've seen with COVID, you can't just rely on being a DJ.
No, mate. And like the reality is the more time you spend in this industry, like you realize that it's so fucking, like the guys that are right at the top, so hard to get there. You do need a lot of stars to align for you. You've got to be really talented, and but
yeah,
but there's loads of other people that are making a good living out of it, and they're doing good things, but they're just not in that like top bracket. That's bloody hard thing to reach, and you hope you can, but it's like you say, it's not always a guarantee, is it?
No, can't put all your eggs into one basket.
No, man, it's good. Yeah, good way of thinking about things. So you're telling me, I don't know how much you can talk about this, but you've got some music signed, haven't you? Because am I right in saying that you've not released anything as yet?
I've released one. There was one track which has come out with Innocent Music. Actually, two. Tell a lie. There was one which came out with Innocent Music on Christmas Eve on a VA, and there was a Lily Allen London edit which came out on Tento, which has done really well. But since then, I've had a few releases which I've pulled because it doesn't really align with where I actually want to go. That it was more of a case of being too eager. Yeah. And one thing I'm really trying to learn is patience with this game, because I've nearly been bit a few times by not being patient. But I have got my first EP, which comes out on the 18th of Feb. So that'll be, is it next week or the week after?
I think it's the week
next
after.
Friday.
No, it's next Friday. Yeah, it's next Friday.
Next Friday, yeah. So that comes out with, have you heard of Show?
Yeah.
His label, Electric Party People. There is an EP which is signed for June or July. I think it might end of July, actually, which I'm not going to say who, because I don't know if I can.
No, that's fair enough.
And then there's a few other bits which are sort of in the pipeline, because the thing with patience is you can send music to someone and you don't get a reply for X amount of weeks, and then if you have to revise something, it's a lot of back and forth. But yeah, there's some stuff there.
Mate, it's wicked. You know what I mean? It's exciting, isn't it? It's when you start putting your first tracks out and stuff like that. I don't know. I suppose I found it quite, I wouldn't say scary, because I think that's probably a bit too strong, but you've no idea what people are going to think. You just, because you're not sending them just to your mates, are you? And your mates are going to say this is decent and stuff like that. But I mean, it's everybody that can listen to it and stuff like that. I mean, how do you feel about, what's your thoughts to that?
I held music back for quite a long time. My friends were saying, just put something out, and I'm trying to explain to them, no, because there's a strategy to this. You can't just put tunes on SoundCloud because they won't go anywhere. So I didn't send anything to any DJs in terms of demos or promos, because I wanted to make sure that it was the best of my ability and aligned with the sound I actually wanted to put out before I did. So I didn't send anything out until last summer. I think it was August, which is still not really that long from starting. So half a year. But then that was the moment when I kind of realized that maybe I fast tracked the whole learning process a bit, because the first batch I sent out, everybody that I sent them to downloaded them. I had like support from Alicia, Robbie Doherty, Seb Zito, East End Dubs, as you might have seen on the Instagram earlier, was playing it. Mason Collective, there's just loads of them, and it was surreal, to be fair, 'cause I didn't expect anything. And then that's when I kind of started sending demos to labels out, which I found is a different level.
Yeah.
But no, it's been quite humbling to have people's opinions on my music, because I'm starting to make friends with people randomly just off music.
Yeah, I mean, you bang on right on what you're saying, that there is no real there's no time frame. It's not like, oh, you've got to learn for 2 years and then you'll be ready, because some people can make really credible music within a short space of time, and obviously sounds like you're one of them. Others, it just takes them longer because they don't put as much time in, and different factors, or maybe they're just not as natural at it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think you probably within 6 months, mate, had put that much time in that your music was probably up to quite a good standard quickly. So there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, man, I've got to say it's I'm definitely excited to see where it goes for you, because it sounds like you sat on quite a nice batch of music then.
Yes, I've got quite a lot of music there, but this is where I'm finding the issue now. I've got quite a lot of music there, but not to stick my nose up, I don't want it to end up on smaller labels. I want it to end up in a place which is going to turn people's heads, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The advice that I've had from people in a position that I want it to be in is, don't send it to X, don't send it to Y, just hold it, and then when the time's right, send it out to the proper labels and work your way down.
Yeah.
That's been another key thing, is just only taking advice from people who are in a position you want to be in.
100%.
That's been a game changer, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who comes across this is probably going to shoot me down for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Sometimes sending your music to lots of different producers and stuff like that the reality is they're actually no further along than you. I've found, like myself in years gone by, it can almost start to become a bit problematic, because the reality is they don't know any more than you. You know what I mean? And they're not to be harsh, but do you know what I mean? I know that's
I do. When I first started, and I first started sending music out, and people were like, "Oh, what's this? Can I have it?" Blah blah blah. I was sending it out, and I was happy to send it out because like I said, with the releases which I pulled, I was eager, and everyone likes it. Oh, let's just send it out. But then you kind of end up in a vicious cycle, because you send it to these people. I'm not going to name who, but you send it to people, and they don't play it out, or they listen to it and they don't download it, and you're like, well, if you like it, surely you download it, and if you like, you play it out. But I found that spreading yourself too wide is a negative thing. You also need to. What I've also realized is these labels that you want to be in, which are big, if they hear your tracks already being played by, no offense to people, but lesser known artists and DJs, they're not going to sign it. So it needs to be exclusive as possible.
100%, mate. I mean, my take on it is, if I do like an edit or something like that just for my own set, I don't give a fuck who has that, to be quite honest with you, because it's like, that's not going to change my world. But anything that I do that I want to actually probably put out, unless it's somebody who's like, they're up there, I wouldn't give it to anybody, because it's, like you say, it almost undervalues your product as a producer, doesn't it? Like to a degree.
Yeah, I've like I say, I've got a group now of 5 or 6 people in there, and they're the only people that get my music.
Yeah.
Other than them, it's just artists that I actually want to see playing it.
Yeah.
And labels that I want to sign. But like I said earlier, getting labels to sign it is a different level to artists playing it. I found it a completely different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, like, for instance, mate, I'm more on the housey edge side of things, just because that's sort of like what I grew up on more than like that, more of that 90s sound. So I sort of like gravitate more towards like your sort of like Nervous Records, King Street, probably like Defected is like probably the big, but I'm talking I don't even know if I could put anything on there with my current sound, even if they wanted it, because they're a bit more commercial now. But for instance, I lost my train of thought then. Those labels, like I've released quite a bit of stuff on Simmer Black, which is quite a solid label, and I've always loved the label. Well, that is actually, you know, looked after by Defected. And mate, I have tried and tried and tried, and all we get back is, mate, we'll get you one, don't worry. And you think, fucking hell, like the step up is just, it's big.
It's hard,
you know
isn't
what I mean? They don't let anybody on those labels. So if you're getting on there, there's something that either they're liking you or they're liking your music, because they don't sign Joe Bloggs. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen.
Even if it's a smaller label, you can. If it's a smaller label and you get on there and it's ran by someone who's affiliated with a bigger label, it's just as hard. It is just as hard. The amount of work you have to put into even get anything that's good enough to go on a label is ridiculous. But when you make, for example, when you make a track, you've got to make sure that you like it in 6 months' time, because one thing I thought going into this was, I'll make a track, I'll send it. If they like it and they want to sign it, that's cool. It'll be out in a week. It's not the case. It takes months.
I mean, some of the stuff that I've got coming out this year, I made a year ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I've sat on it, and you know what you're doing is exactly the right thing. Like making tunes in batches. You know, like getting like 12, 15, 20 together, and then, like you say, I don't know, you might be a bit different, but sometimes, you know, you finish a track and sometimes you can fall into this habit of thinking that everything you've made is the best track you've ever made. And it isn't always the case. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes 6 months later, when you listen to those 20 tunes, you think, oh, fuck me, like that. Actually, these 5 are actually the best out of it now that I think. And so having that patience and not making a track and sending it out is 100% the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, again, when I first started getting confident in sending my music out, it was a case of, okay, I've made this. Now this one's got a better this one. Okay, this one's my best track. And then the next one would be my best one. And it would get to the point where I'd export the loop. I think I still do it now, to be fair. I export the loop and listen to it on the way to work. And I'm just thinking it's the best track I've ever made. But these days, I don't tend to listen to my own stuff that much. I think because at first it's quite exciting to actually think, oh, wow, I made this. But I tend to just create the track, mix it down, export it, send it. I send it to feedback. I send it to Josh and Kaz from Late Replies because I'm in their community. So I trust those guys because they're a sound which I kind of want to go down. So I send it to them. They give me feedback. I amend the track and the feedback, and that's it. It's done, and I move on. And then a couple of months will pass, and that's when I'll look back and go, okay, what goes with what and where can I send it?
Yeah, that's the way to do it, mate. Are you a finisher of tracks, or will you start a loop and if you don't think it's much good, scrap it, or will you tend to finish them no matter what? What's the?
I've probably not finished about 5 tracks, and I don't know why that is. I think when I first started doing production, from the information I was taking in from Josh from doing lessons and communities and stuff, it was finish your music, whether you like it or you don't, finish it. So that's what I've always done. I've just finished it. If it sounds like rubbish at the end, it sounds like rubbish. You've still learned something. And one thing I say to all my friends is that struggle to finish music regularly is, how are you ever going to get experience mixing down if you don't finish the track? Not every track has to be signed. Just finish it and just move on. But yeah, I tend to finish everything. I get annoyed if I don't finish it within a week. I really get annoyed. Because I find those 2 hours in the morning are equivalent to 5, 6, 7 hours in the evening easily.
It's good. Like, I think, again, it's all subjective. Like, everybody's got their own way about it. But I'm the same. I'm a quick worker, mate. I like to turn things around. I don't like to sit and deliberate on things. I'd rather just make it, shelve it, once it's done. And then I'll, if I think, right, it's okay, then I'll just make another track. You know, I don't go in and fucking, unless I think I've got an absolute gem on my hands, which, you know, they don't come along very often, but, you know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's best to just move on, make another track, just keep the volume going, you know, and then have a look at the whole thing in 6 months' time.
Yeah, I can't do the thing where you make 2 or 3 tracks at once. I don't credit to anybody that does that. I haven't got the concentration.
No, I'm the same.
It's just got to be one at a time.
One, finish it. Yeah, I can't make, like, sometimes if I'm like doing a remix and stuff like that, I hate it because I'm just like, I just want to finish one, get it done, fuck it off, and then finish, you know, move on to the next thing. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how people's brains work differently around it. I've got a question for you, actually. So from a creativity standpoint, some producers go in and they don't really go in with any idea in their head. They just either get their keyboard or however they go about it, or they get a sample and they just jam it out, sort of thing. Are you one of those types of producers, or are you need to go in with a more specific game plan to what it is you're trying to get to?
I think I've only ever gone in with an idea a handful of times, and that would be from listening to a track and thinking, you know, I'm going to try and make a track like that. That's the only time I'd go in. I'm not sort of I haven't got a musical background, so I never sit here and think, oh, this melody would be cool. I'd have to hear it and then go in. But 9 times out of 10, I will go off a vocal I found, because I found at the start I'd get the drum loop and stuff done, and then I'd get stuck because I wouldn't have a vocal. So I wouldn't have a key to go down. And then say if I carried on making the track without the vocal, and then I've already pigeonholed myself to a key, and then I'm spending 5, 6, 7 hours finding a flipping vocal. So it goes off the vocal more often than not.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate, I've got to say. I used to, quite a while ago, start with drums first, bass, get something grooving, and then, but like you say, it's, once you get your head around that and you know what it is that you're trying to do in your style, building drums and stuff like that is not too much of a problem. But trying to find the right vocal or whatever it is you're trying to do with your lead sound, you know, whatever it is you're choosing, I think getting that at the start is so much more important, because once you've got those things nailed down, the rest is pretty, well, it's more straightforward, isn't it?
This is the thing. When I started, everyone always banged on about arrangement. Personally, I don't know about you, but personally, arrangement, it's the easiest thing. It's just copy and paste. It's just copying stuff and putting it in the right place and just smoothing over the transitions. The hardest bit is the melodies and just all that stuff where you actually need to be savvy with your musical knowledge, basically.
No, I get what you're saying. I mean, like, I've never had problems finishing tracks because I've never got stuck in loops. Arranging tracks to me is not a problem. Never been an issue. Whereas I know some people can get like a really good loop on the go and it never goes anywhere. And I'm like, how the fuck can you, like, how can you do that? Because, like, that's the hardest bit. Getting that 16-bar loop and you sit there and think, yeah, this is sounding good. That's, you've completed 75% of the job already. You know, it's like, but yeah, it's, people do struggle with it, I've got to say. Mate, we're starting to draw closer to the end. Can I ask, like, sort of 3 pieces of advice that you could offer people from your experience so far?
The list goes on. I think one of the main ones is be patient. You got to be patient, because something that happened to me was I had a track. That track that's coming out actually in a couple of weeks. I've got no videos to promo it because I've used them all. It's just post and getting to ego, posting the videos when they're being played straight away, and I can't repost them. Patient with sending stuff out to people, because you kind of need to realize that other person that you're sending the music to is also trying to live their life. And there's also finances involved and stuff like that. I've written some down here so I didn't miss any. Surround yourself with like-minded people. When I started, none of my friends did music. I didn't know any people that did music. I had to go out and find these people and just be brave and just start talking to people and being polite. And the main one after that would be invest in yourself. Because I speak to a lot of people and they don't. They just don't. Like you need to accept the fact you're gonna have to make sacrifices and not go out on the weekends and not spend your money here. Just join a community and it's 40 quid a month. And that's like what you're cutting, 2 takeaways? They're the main ones, but the list could go on.
Yeah, mate, you nailed it. I mean, it's the patience thing it's a hard one, and like I think it does come with time. You sometimes you do need to get burnt a little bit, and then you think, "Fucking, I'm not doing that again." But yeah, it's being a music producer. From my experience, shit don't happen the way you want it to happen all the time. It just doesn't. Like you think, "Oh, I've got these tracks, just get them signed, and this year I'll get 6 or 7 out, or whatever it is that you're aiming to do." And it just, like you say, somebody doesn't come back to you. It takes a long time and it's maybe just not quite for them. And you've got to rethink the plan. And that's where having a batch of music and always working like 6 months ahead all the time. So like you're getting your release schedule in, it's vital, because once that's rolling and that you've got 5 or 6 records coming out, you've took all the pressure off yourself. Because now that you've got X amount of months to make new music, not think about fucking how what am I going to do? I haven't got anything coming out at the latter end of the year. And so
it's interesting what you said though about taking the pressure off yourself. I think that's another thing a lot of people do is they give themselves time frames and put pressure on yourself. Just don't worry. I mean, you're going to look around and you're going to see that this person is playing here and that person is playing there, and they haven't even opened Ableton yet. But you just need to just worry about yourself, focus on yourself, and the rest will take care of itself.
Nowadays, we do live in a society, obviously, with Instagram and what have you, where it's so hard to not compare yourself to people. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. People, some people are better at it than others, but when you're grinding like you are, and I think I am, and you're pushing in, and you see people getting things that you think, I can't fucking believe that, there's going to be part of you naturally that's going to think, I can't fucking believe that. You know what I mean? But you just need to just bide your time. Do you know what I mean? Like it's going to happen for you the way it's meant to happen. That may mean you become the next Jamie Jones. It may not. But the reality is, you can't force it. You can only do your best with it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I always think.
I kind of wouldn't want to be that person that is just sort of thrown in to it like you kind of see some people are without even producing, because I don't think that's really sustainable, because you won't progress into the next level.
No.
Whereas if you do all the work behind the scenes and then you come in and you've got all this music, it's 10 times better.
Most of them, mate, that even the guys that are doing it at the really top level, they've been at it for fucking years. You know what I mean? Even before they become somebody who becomes like a household name, they've already been at it for 10 years before that.
One thing I realized was all these people I look up to are like 30 to 35, and I'm 23. Why am I worrying about music being released? Like, there's literally no rush,
mate. You've got real good time on your hands, and I'm sure if you're consistent and like, I don't know, I always think to myself, do you know what, like there's only, if you're really trying to do the right things and you're pushing and you're using your brain and you're doing the work and everything like that, there ain't too much more you can do. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't create some sort of miracle. It's either, obviously everybody's got the aspirations of wanting to be at that level, but you can't force that shit. It either just happens or it doesn't. But it doesn't mean that you still can't have a great career. I mean, there's loads of DJs and producers that they're not at the top level, still making good money, still doing the thing they want to do. And do you know what I mean? It's like,
I mean, people if you can get a gig, like there are people which aren't big They're literally not big, and they get paid £500 to do a set. If you get 3 sets a month and you can keep your part-time job, you're laughing. Really, realistically, that's more than enough money.
Yeah,
to live comfortably anyway.
It is when you're doing something that for like 90% of the time you actually want to do. You know what I mean? And I worked in the metal trade for a long time, mate, for 10 hours a day. I absolutely hated it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, trust me, when you've done that for a long period of time, you realise that that's when life is shit. When you're going into a job every day, it doesn't matter what they're paying you, if it's really good or whatever, and you hate it, like you say, if you can get that little part-time job and you can earn money off playing music to people and you can make music and you've got a fan base that likes what you're doing, you're winning at life, aren't you?
Yeah, it's all about just being content with what you're doing, I think.
Yeah, man. Mate, we have reached the end, and it's been really great speaking to you, I've got to say. I'm really excited, mate, to see where your journey goes.
Thanks.
So a lot of good work in a short space of time, man, honestly. And you look like you've definitely got the right brain around you for it. Yeah,
hopefully it unravels how I hope it will.
I think it will. So, mate, where can people find you if they do happen to listen to the episode?
My Instagram is just my name, so Levi Swarn. The event's Instagram is Solar Sessions. I don't have Twitter. And I don't use Facebook for music, so it is literally just Instagram. Yeah.
SoundCloud at all, or you're not too fussed about that?
Yeah, that's my name. There isn't much on there at the minute. I'm looking to start building engagement. So one thing you've probably seen on Instagram, I'm posting a bit more this year with the random tracks uploaded, pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start doing mixes every other month and put in a few edits out. So yeah, there will be stuff on there.
Yeah. Good on you, mate. Mate, it's been great speaking to you, honestly.
Thanks for asking me on.
Not a problem, mate.